Is Josh Rosen our quarterback? Yeah, he is right now for sure.
It's pretty special, when you watch him being one of the most dynamic athletes on the field, regardless of position.
Right?
And then he can
It's like a slot receiver with an arm.
And then he can drop back and be mechanically sound and really hurt you from the pocket as well. He's got some special ability.
Coach Kingsbury, he what type of offense he runs. Obviously, he recruited me out of high school. Have a great relationship with him. If I were to play under him, I think it'd be a great deal.
From GM Steve Keim to Coach Cliff Kingsbury to quarterback Kyler Murray, the Cardinals have one or two things going on here, Chris. We boiled it down with the assistance of the Cardinals website.
Right.
Because they're the ones who have teed this up for us all to figure out.
And Mike,
for some reason,
they interviewed me.
The Cardinals website.
I know. They interviewed me going, what would you do at pick number 1 and going through all the scenarios, which I was just shocked at the aggression of the conversation. So I know it is unbelievable. Sorry, I didn't mean to disrupt. Continue.
No, you're fine.
Okay.
You're fine. No,
right.
That's right. It's your first day of your 4 days per week endeavor, and you're already cutting me off. Here is, if you're watching on NBCSN, the headline from the Cardinals website. This is the website owned and operated by the Cardinals. Cardinals facing Kyler Murray conundrum. And if you read the article, you'll see that the analysis boils down to this. Either the Cardinals really are serious about taking Kyler Murray with the first overall pick a year after they traded from 15 to 10 to get quarterback Josh Rosen, or it's all a ruse. Either way, the Cardinals website has cracked the case and they're all over it, and they will be paying close attention to what the Cardinals do, as will the rest of us.
Are they part of the ruse?
At this point, I don't.
Right, Mike? I mean, are they are they that smart to bring the whole organization together and the media department to start this conversation and build the fanfare for this? Do you think that's possible?
Hey, I think that's possible.
Yeah.
I think that's entirely possible. And here's the question. When does Josh Rosen become part of the ruse? I was talking about this last hour. I don't know. And I'm not saying Josh Rosen is immature, but I think he would have to be mature beyond his years to know that they're just kind of messing with him the next 2 months, that they're just putting this idea out there that maybe he'll be traded by the team, that maybe he's not part of the long-term plans. And, yeah, that may undermine him within the eyes of the media, the fans, his teammates that he's trying to lead, but he's going to hold that close to his vest. I don't know that he's in on it. And if he is, I don't know that he can keep his mouth shut about it, because I think it would be very easy to let someone know, and then they let someone know, and the next thing you know, it's reported that it's all a ruse and they're not trading Josh Rosen. He can say, I don't know anything about that. I didn't say anything to anybody. So if it is a ruse, I really want to know how far it goes. And it probably doesn't go far beyond Michael Bidwell, Steve Keim, and Cliff Kingsbury. But, maybe it is a ruse, maybe it isn't, and the drama continues, and the NFL loves it. And I think the NFL would like that drama to continue right up until the moment comes to put someone's name on that first draft card late April.
Yeah, well, it's a great conversation. It's going to be really fun to watch. I mean, from a lot of different scenarios. I mean, the first thing you brought up about Josh Rosen, is he involved in the ruse? I would doubt that. I would doubt that they would let a young player who's just getting done with his rookie year, who of course, was a little brash with his talking and things like that in college anyways. That's why maybe he fell to the 10th pick, because people weren't sure what might come out of his mouth. So I would imagine they didn't trust him with that type of information. But the real thing is, I mean, are the Cardinals for real about taking Kyler Murray? I guess the first thing I would say about that conversation, Mike, is, and I got asked this by the Arizona Cardinal website. They've kind of put me right on the, put my feet to the fire going, what would you do? Okay, here it is. And I said, I think I would take Kyler Murray, asking me right now. Now, taking Kyler Murray at 1, what is that? I mean, you brought up so many great points last week. You don't want to be the team that misses out on the next big thing, right? The next Patrick Mahomes, the next trendsetter in the NFL. Arizona's certainly a team that could use a little pizzazz in their franchise and around their franchise in the Arizona, in the state of Arizona. So I understand them flirting with a Kyler Murray and wanting to bring him there. But then the other thing is the trade market for Josh Rosen. And do they want to stick with Josh Rosen? So it's take Kyler Murray, or maybe get out of that first pick and trade down and acquire more picks and fill more holes within your football team, is really what Steve Keim is getting paid the big bucks with Cliff Kingsbury to figure it all out.
Yeah, and I think the goal is you take full advantage of the window that you have, and it's an extended window to evaluate Kyler Murray, to evaluate Josh Rosen. Go back and study his performances from last year. That's a factor in all of this. You better carve out some time to go back and look at Josh Rosen's tape from every game he played last year and be damn sure that this is a guy you're ready to give up on if you are thinking that Kyler Murray is the guy. And as it relates to a possible trade, I know that one unnamed GM told Peter King that there probably will be a third-round pick available for Josh Rosen. I'm not buying that. And look, you never know who the GM is. You never know what the motivation is. You never know. Maybe that's a GM that would like to get Josh Rosen.
Especially this time of the year. You're right.
When you consider that Rosen has only $6.2 million left over the next 3 years to be paid, that is a steal for a guy who was the 10th overall pick.
Right.
And Scott McCloughan, who was all over Baker Mayfield last year, he has been telling the media that, yes, Kyler Murray is the best quarterback prospect this year by far, but he's still worse than the 5 who went last year. And I'm not here to agree or disagree with McCloughan. My point is, there's value in Rosen. There's value in getting Rosen for $6.2 million over 3 years, especially if you're Washington, where your hands are tied by the Alex Smith contract.
Right.
So what's it worth to you to get a quarterback for the next 3 years at $6.2 million? I would argue that because the Cardinals have already paid this guy $11 million, that actually increases his trade value, Chris.
I totally feel you there. I mean, that's the big thing, that it doesn't really like the old days, right? Before we had this rookie salary cap, no team would ever think about drafting a quarterback at number 10 and then trying to trade him away with the very next draft. But because of these rookie contracts, and there's not this huge financial commitment like we saw with, Sam Bradford's in the world when they were picked number 1 and had $75 million contracts before they ever took a snap in football. It is different, and it does make the trade value easier. That's going to be the big question for Arizona, is there's just not a lot of teams that are desperate in the quarterback position right now. The top of the draft, I don't think the Giants or the Jaguars are going to be in the market for a Josh Rosen. I think they're going to look for the draft for the future, But the teams you mentioned, the Washington Redskins, certainly. Do the Dolphins want to move on from Ryan Tannehill? Do they go with a Josh Rosen and like that? The Bengals with bringing maybe they bring in somebody to compete with Andy Dalton. Maybe it gets to that point. But at the very least, I don't agree with Scott McCloughan and what he said, right? I mean, you're saying the 5 quarterbacks from last year are better than Kyler Murray. I don't agree with that. Kyler Murray is a really special entity. And yes, his size is the one big concern, but there's no other concerns. And I would like to remind everybody out there last year, the Arizona Cardinals, from everything I know, and I'm pretty sure I said it on the show not long after the draft last year, they wanted Josh Allen more than they wanted Josh Rosen. I think Josh Rosen was kind of the default guy. So maybe the organization never really bought in or actually loved Josh Rosen. I'm just throwing that out there.
Well, and you got a different coach who's on record saying that he would take Murray with the first pick in the draft, and there still may be a little of a Lou Holtz component to that because he was getting his Texas Tech team ready to play Oklahoma and Kyler Murray at the time. Cliff Kingsbury said what he said, but still, there is that belief, there is that connection. They're represented by the same agent, for crying out loud. So there is smoke. Whether the smoke has been put there deliberately by the Cardinals to throw off the scent, that remains to be seen, and we'll see how that all plays out as the weeks unfold. And, if I'm a team that's trading for Josh Rosen, Chris, I want to go ahead and get that done before my offseason program opens. But here's the thing. The moment that trade happens, we know that Kyler Murray's the guy the Cardinals are going to take. And this gets back to the whole presentation of the ultimate show about nothing as far as the NFL is concerned, the draft. They're not going to want the cat to be out of the bag. The NFL will be nudging the Cardinals to keep Rosen on the roster, to keep all of this quiet until it's time to unveil to everyone in Nashville and watching around the world on 17 different networks that this is what's going down. And people say, they won't. Oh, no, that isn't the way it works. Oh, yes, that is the way it works. When the Rams traded up to get Jared Goff 3 years ago, they kept it close to the vest until it was time to announce to the world that it was Jared Goff, even though everybody knew it was Jared Goff. And so I think from the standpoint of if I'm Washington and I want to get Josh Rosen in April the 8th or whenever their offseason program begins, it begins before the draft.
That's right.
I want Rosen there before the draft, and if that happens, the cat's out of the bag, and there goes the drama.
Yeah, sure, that certainly does, but I think that Arizona probably would not want to do that because I would think the way that they could get the most value in a trade for a Josh Rosen would be to go up all the way to the draft. And, you're going to have teams that are going to get done with free agency here and not necessarily – this is where the timeline will get interesting in this trade. Usually teams, of course, they're going to have free agency. The Washington Redskins, they have Colt McCoy. Let's other teams out there. If they don't sign the quarterback that they fancy or feel like they can lead them into the 2019 season, they're going to know before the draft because a lot of teams usually have an OTA, 3 or 4 practices before the draft to see where their team's at. Is there anything glaring? Let's get one more look at our team to see, oh gosh, we have to draft or do this to get things done. And I think that's where really the price for Josh Rosen could get sky high as teams get closer to the draft and they go, maybe it is a Washington Redskins where they just go, okay, we thought Colt McCoy might be the guy, but he's not now. Okay, we're not sure if we really want him to be the leader of the 2019 season. Maybe that's when they call the Arizona Cardinals and offer up more than maybe they would have at this point of the season or off season because they finally realize, okay, we definitely have a deficiency at the quarterback position.
And, this is the other reality as well. When you've already paid Josh Rosen $11 million, you can keep him, right?
Sure.
You could make Murray 1 and Rosen 2. You don't have to trade Josh Rosen.
No doubt.
That's another alternative for the Arizona Cardinals. And, quarterback, such an important position in football, the most important position on the field. What's wrong with having 2 guys in the event Kyler Murray does get injured? That's one of the big question marks when it relates to Kyler Murray's long-term NFL future. Why not keep Josh Rosen around if you can convince him to stick around as the back?
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.